Ein lauter Medienrummel und viel Spekulation umgeben das erste Gespräch zwischen US-Präsident Donald Trump und dem russischen Präsidenten Wladimir Putin. Beide Seiten weigern sich bislang, Details über das Telefonat preiszugeben. Trump zeigte sich aber weiter sehr entschlossen, den Ukraine-Krieg in naher Zukunft zu beenden. Moskau hingegen sieht als positives Signal, dass die diplomatischen Beziehungen zwischen beiden Nationen wiederhergestellt werden. Welchen Eindruck hast du vom ersten Gespräch zwischen Putin und Trump? Signalisiert es eine Kehrtwende in der US-Politik gegenüber Russland?
The fact that a president of the United States spoke with the president of Russia is, by definition, a U-turn from past practice. Joe Biden would not talk to Vladimir Putin, nor would Secretary of State Blinken talk to Foreign Minister Lawrow. So the concept of restored diplomatic interaction is a very positive sign. I think the reason why neither side is saying anything about the substance of the conversation is that the conversation had no substance. I don't think Trump is ready to commit to a policy line, and out of fear that Russia would reject it out of hand. And so I think this was just an initial first date, get to know each other, and they'll there's a lot of work ahead if this is going to work. There's no guarantee this is going to work, but we've also seen that the Trump administration has delayed rolling out its Ukraine peace plan that was supposed to be unveiled at the Munich Security Conference. Instead, Keith Kellogg is going to go consult with NATO and Europe about details, and then we'll see what happens. But I think one thing is certain: the Russians have made it clear, as diplomatically as possible, that nothing coming out of the Trump camp remotely resembles the kind of deal that Russia could accept.
Der ukrainische Präsident Wladimir Selenskij äußerte sich besorgt über mögliche Zugeständnisse, die Trump gegenüber Putin machen könnte. Sogar die Wortwahl der US-Regierung ist eine andere als unter Präsident Joe Biden. So sprach Trump am Sonntag vom Ukraine-Russland-Krieg. Selenskij sieht Trump in der Verantwortung, nicht nur für Frieden zu sorgen, sondern auch zu verhindern, dass Russland die Ukraine erneut angreifen kann. Wie siehst du das? Wird Trump Zugeständnisse an Putin machen, um den Ukraine-Krieg zu beenden? Und was erwartest du von dem Gespräch zwischen Trump und Selenskij?
Well, Zelensky isn't the president of Ukraine. We need to make that clear. He governs in an unconstitutional fashion. The Ukrainian constitution is very clear on the point that he is no longer the president, that if there can't be elections, the transfer of power goes to the Speaker of the Parliament. So we should probably stop calling him President Zelensky, and therefore we should stop attributing any gravitas to anything he says. He is irrelevant. He doesn't matter. And Trump is behaving in that fashion. And I also think language is important. Concessions. Trump is in no position to make concessions to Russia. What cards does Trump hold? He's literally inserting himself into a game that started, without his involvement. Russia has won this game, and Trump is now stepping in the middle of the game, trying to make it a draw, or trying to imply that somehow Donald Trump, has won. We are in an interesting period where Trump's ego has become, one of the defining factors in whether or not there will be a resolution of this conflict on a timetable other than that driven by absolute Russian victory. The only concession Trump can make is to concede that Russia has won the war and that Russia alone gets to dictate the outcome. That's it.
Jüngst machte Trump damit Schlagzeilen, dass die USA die Ukraine nur noch finanziell unterstützen werden, wenn sie dafür handfeste Garantien liefert. Trump schlug vor, die Ukraine solle den USA Zugriff gewähren auf ihre Vorkommen an seltenen Erden. Am Montag konkretisierte Trump, es gehe ihm um seltene Erden und andere Rohstoffe im Wert von 500 Milliarden US-Dollar. Der ukrainische Präsident Selenskij soll laut Trump bereits seine Bereitschaft dazu gegeben haben. Kritische Stimmen dazu kommen vor allem aus der EU. So bezeichnete Bundeskanzler Olaf Scholz Trumps Vorhaben, Hilfe nur noch gegen seltene Erden zu gewähren, als unsolidarisch. Wie siehst du das? Agiert Trump unsolidarisch gegenüber der Ukraine? Oder ist es zweckrational, Hilfe nur gegen Ausgleich zu gewähren?
We always knew that Donald Trump was a transactional president. What wasn't clear up until now is the fact that Volodymyr Selenskij is a it's as simple as that. Any man that would sell his nation for $500 billion of their natural resources is a and he's made all of Ukraine. He doesn't stand for anything, but he never did. It was always fake. This was an actor playing a role. Now his newest role is that of a streetwalker, a common streetwalker. This is an absurd position taken by Donald Trump. But then again, what's more absurd is Volodymyr Selenskij giving credence. Zelensky should have slapped Trump in the face, thrown the water in the face, got her from the table, and walked away. That's what any self-respecting person would do when confronted with the proposition that you will sell your nation for a price. The proper response under normal circumstances would be, what price do you place on freedom? What price do you place on liberty? The problem is this war was never about freedom, and the only war wasn't about Ukrainian freedom. It was about Russian freedom, Russian liberty. This is about Ukraine being the aggressor. And so there's nothing that, the bottom line is Zelensky has always been someone who sold his soul to the West, who allowed himself to be used as a proxy. When the Ukrainian defense minister says early on, we are a proxy of NATO, there's another word, we are the of NATO. We have sold ourselves to NATO. We have allowed ourselves to be subordinated to the will of NATO, which now brings in Schultz. Schultz is the pimp that tried to dress the up to pretend that the is about freedom and liberty, but it never was. It was always about being of NATO, and NATO is the of America. So I don't understand why anybody's getting upset about this. I've said before, Trump is the most honest president we have ever had, because he has looked Zelensky in the face and said, you are a what is your price? And Zelensky, because he is a said, my price is $500 billion.
Die ukrainische Elite hat längst zahlreiche Löcher gefunden, um sich selbst noch mehr zu bereichern. Unvergessen sind Selenskijs Behauptungen, er wisse gar nicht, wohin 100 Milliarden US-Dollar hingegangen sind. Auch bei den westlichen Waffenlieferungen gibt es seit Jahren zahlreiche Berichte, dass die Ukraine diese auf den Schwarzmarkt wirft und an das organisierte Verbrechen und Terrororganisationen verkauft. Im Nahen Osten, in Afrika und in Lateinamerika. Nun berichtete der US-Journalist Tucker Carlson, das ukrainische Militär verkauft US-Waffen an mexikanische Drogenkartelle. Genau die Fentanyl und illegale Einwanderer in die USA einschleusen. Hältst du diese Berichte für glaubwürdig? Bewaffnen die USA somit über den Umweg Ukraine ihre eigenen Feinde?
Well, I would say it's more than just Tucker Carlson saying this. I believe the Mexican president has come out and asked the question, why are weapons that can only be in the possession of the U.S. military now in the possession of the cartel? And the answer is those weapons were transferred to Ukraine, who then sold them on the black market. We knew this from day one. Why does this surprise anybody? Ukraine is the most corrupt nation on the face of the earth. Welcome to that reality that's coming home to roost. Now, I just hope that Donald Trump remembers this when he declares his war against the cartel, because the first bombing strikes, therefore, must be against the Ukrainian military to stop the flow of arms. But, let's not be surprised that this is happening. Let's not be surprised about anything that's happening in Ukraine. Where one of the greatest transfers of wealth that took place in Nazi Germany was? Right at the end. when law and order broke down and the Nazis went around and grabbed all the wealth they could do. Now, they didn't get to hold on to it long. They sort of lost, and some ran away, others were caught in prison, some were hung, some were shot. But they went around and looted Germany. They looted Europe. As the Nazis fled from Paris, they looted France. They looted Warsaw. They looted everybody. And we see the same Nazi-like mentality and behavior taking place in Ukraine today. As it collapses, the Nazis are looting everything. Hundreds of billions of dollars that are supposed to go to defend liberty, preserve democracy, just going into the pockets of those who fooled the West into believing that there was liberty and democracy to be preserved and defended.
Besonders Trumps Pläne zur Verhängung von Zöllen gegenüber der EU erhitzen die Gemüter in Europa. Längst machen Begriffe wie Handelskrieg die Runde. EU-Kommissionspräsidentin Ursula von der Leyen betonte, die EU werde sich zur Wehr setzen. Der französische Außenminister Jean-Noël Barrot warnte Trump vor entsprechenden Gegenmaßnahmen seitens der EU. Der französische Präsident Emmanuel Macron argumentierte, Trump solle sich lieber um China sorgen, statt um die EU. Wie ist deine Einschätzung? Droht ein Handelskrieg zwischen der EU und den USA? Und warum ist Trump so erpicht, Zölle gegen die EU zu verhängen?
If the EU spoke in a singular voice, a trade war could be a problem between the EU and the United States. But Trump has already figured out how to defeat the EU, and he's doing it. He said, I will no longer engage with the EU as a singularity. I will engage with individual nations. So the best way to destroy the EU is to get a trade war with the EU, get the EU to take the bait and say, we are going to create this solid front. 430 million people taking on those pathetic 340 million Americans. The problem is, every American believes they're an American. There's no doubt who we are. Those 430 million people don't view themselves as Europeans. And they won't when they start to pay the price, because we will crush Europe. We own Europe. You're our pathetic little We've owned you for years. You're not even a mistress. We don't treat you with the respect that a mistress is due. And so now we're going to punish you. And what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do, because you can't speak with a singular voice. We will pick you apart, because the reality is there is no European Union. It's an artificial entity. We will pick you apart by picking different countries, and we will put country against country. And that'll be the end of the EU. And that's what Trump is doing, trying to destroy the European Union as a potential economic threat to the United States down the road. And congratulations, Europe, you fell into the trap.
Eine der drastischsten Maßnahmen der neuen Trump-Regierung ist die Zerschlagung von USAID und die Offenlegung ihrer zahlreichen Aktivitäten, egal ob Ukraine, Georgien, Lateinamerika oder Indien. USAID hatte ihre Finger überall dort im Spiel, um souveräne Nationen zu erschüttern, Unruhe zu stiften und die Politik im Sinne Washingtons umzugestalten. Jetzt könnte man fragen, warum nimmt Trump einen so bedeutenden Akteur der US-Außenpolitik aus dem Spiel? Warum hat er nicht weiterhin auf USAID gebaut zur Durchsetzung der US-Interessen?
Because USAID has not advanced U.S. interests. It's advanced the interests of political and economic elites, but it has pitted the United States against the world. If you're going to say, as Donald Trump has, that we are getting out of the business of becoming militarily involved in conflicts around the world that we don't need to be involved in, then you also need to dismantle the mechanisms that created the chaos that led to these conflicts. USAID has not been about providing aid to those in need. That is a cover. We use the cover, the pretense of providing aid to those in need, to insert ourselves, to go in and transform societies from the ground up in ways that are detrimental to the traditional cultural values and national interests of those societies, and what are how we view it. Let's take Georgia, for example. Traditional conservative Georgia. Very homophobic, not friendly to transgender. That's just what traditional, orthodox countries are. So what did the United States do? Come in and respect this? Or come in and It wasn't even that we came in and said, come on, guys, you gotta do better. You gotta, respect the rights of everybody. No, we came in and we sought to destroy Georgian traditional family values by empowering homosexuals, by empowering transgendered, by under the guise of diversity, and then creating political movements built around these very things that are poison to Georgian society, and impose this. We use this the politics of diversity to destroy, and Georgia had enough of it. I think all of the world is waking up to the fact that USAID was never about helping people and always about undermining. Look, 10 years, USAID was formed in 1961 by John F. Kennedy. 10 years later, in Vietnam, USAID is running the war. CORDS was an organization led by USAID that brought together the CIA, Department of Defense, State Department, United States Information Service, and other agencies to run the military operation. How is that aid to people? It is about taking control of countries. Samantha Power is one of the most evil people on the planet. She's up there with Victoria Nuland. It's probably two of the most evil people that have ever borne the title Ambassador of the United States. Her job was death and destruction. Her job was chaos and anarchy. But she disguised it as bringing peanut paste to starving children. What a horrible woman she is. And Trump is just basically saying, we're not playing this game anymore. And it's not just the game. This whole establishment, the corruption, is meant to pay for the deep state. This is how the deep state is made, through organizations like this, through activities like this, where hundreds of billions of dollars are poured in, not to help anybody, but to create chaos and anarchy that keeps these this self-licking ice cream cone. And these people just take the U.S. taxpayer money and empower themselves, enrich themselves. They create non-governmental organizations that have 60, 70, 80% overhead costs. You're telling people, give me $1 to help the starving in Sudan. But of that dollar, 80% go in the pockets of those who are saying, give me the $1. So what they're saying is, make me rich. Then the 20 cents that I have left over from this $1, maybe 5 pennies will get to those in need. Why don't I just give the $1 straight to those in need? Why do I need this bureaucracy? Because this bureaucracy is a vehicle of repaying those who provide the money that put politicians in power. This is the payback. This is the quid pro quo. And Trump is saying, no, we're taking it down. You can't have USAID. There's a lot of the politics of revenge taking place here. Everything that Trump has targeted, every institution, every individual, every organization was in one way or another involved in the whole Russiagate scheme, the effort to undermine the first Trump presidency, to bring down Donald Trump. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and the Democrats are getting a bunch of cold peaches stuffed right in their face.
Welchen Einfluss hat der Sturz von USAID für dich persönlich? Auf deinen Social-Media-Kanälen beschreibst du einen Zusammenhang zwischen deiner Offenlegung der Aktivitäten von USAID in Georgien vergangenes Jahr und den FBI-Ermittlungen gegen dich, inklusive der Hausdurchsuchung bei dir. Du schreibst, US-Präsident Trump und US-Justizministerin Pam Bondi habe eine Reihe von Memos herausgegeben, in denen sie versuchen, die Folgen der Instrumentalisierung des Justizministeriums für politische Zwecke zu untersuchen und zu beseitigen. Rechnest du damit, dass du wieder völlig rehabilitiert wirst?
If they're people of their word, then yes. There's no doubt that the targeting, the FBI and the Justice Department targeting of me was done for political reasons, which is a violation of my constitutional rights, a violation of my civil liberties. There was never a doubt about this. Even the FBI admitted it. They said, we are coming after you because of what you are saying. We choose to interpret this as a violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. President Trump and Pam Bondi have said, no, you can't criminalize free speech. And they've said this will cease and desist. So on the face, I've already been vindicated. Now I just need them to take the appropriate action, not only to shut down the investigation and return my computers and return my documents, but to hold those accountable for what they did. And that's one of the promises that were made. These working groups that will investigate, and if people used the Department of Justice, used the, operate under the color of law to weaponize law enforcement to punish people for free speech, then they should lose their jobs and be subjected to whatever penalties up to and including criminal penalties. I have no sympathy. And I told them when they came in my house, you're doing the wrong thing. What you're doing is wrong. It's legally wrong. It's morally wrong. It's unethical and it's un-American. So I have no sympathy for any of them. If they lose their jobs, they deserve to lose their jobs. They don't have a right to have a badge calling them an American law enforcement officer and then go and violate the constitutional rights of Americans. And if you're an attorney overseeing this, you're fired. You can't have that power. I don't care how far up it goes. You came after the wrong Marine. I told them that on day one. And finally, we have people in power who agree. So let's see what they do. If they're people of their word and they're going to follow through with the letter of the law as they have interpreted it, I wouldn't want to be in the shoes of any of those FBI agents who stepped foot in my house. And I wouldn't want to be in the shoes of any of those Department of Justice attorneys that authorized a search warrant of my house. You went after the wrong Marine. You violated the Constitution. You violated your oath, and you could go to hell.
Liebe Zuschauer, wenn euch unsere Beiträge gefallen, teilt sie unbedingt in den sozialen Medien. Abonniert unseren Kanal und drückt auf die Glocke, damit ihr keine Veröffentlichung von Gegenpol verpasst.